Flat Wood Slides. I mentioned in the last Facebook Live that I did that my mission in 2020 is to start working with some things that I wouldn't initially be attracted to. Colors, components, things that I look at and I go, what do you do with that? And these wood slides are just one of those things that I looked at, and kind of dismissed, didn't really do much with them. So here's the challenge for today, is to see what we can do with these beautiful Bulahan wood slides. All right, let's get started. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Here we go. Take just a second to get this thing set up. Okay, so let me first of all show you what I'm talking about with these wood slides. They come in a number of different woods. They come in the Bayong, the tiger ebony, a couple of other ones, and you look at them and you go, this really isn't that interesting. Other than the fact that the wood itself is just beautiful, and again, you can't really appreciate it till you see it in person. These wood beads have a beautiful finish, a nicer matrix than any other wood I've seen in the last like 20 years. So the other thing that's interesting about these slides, and may actually kind of steer you away from them, is the length here is 10 millimeters, but this is almost 4 millimeters wide. So if you just put a piece of flat leather through here, it's going to slide all over the place, but that could work to our advantage here. So for my first project, really simple. I've actually got a piece of 5 millimeter braided leather here, and I am going to put it through this flat slide. And so it's not going to quite just slide right in, but I can kind of push it in here. Come on. Okay. And it really will go in. I'm going to show you something else here in just a second. Okay, so I almost got it through. Okay, and here's a trick that I use a lot of times to grab something when I just can't quite push it through. I'm going to use my flush cutters. And I can now, unlike the chain nose or the round nose pliers, I can really sort of get a grip on this end piece here, and I can just pull it right through, hopefully without cutting off too much of the leather. I might lose a little bit, but here we go. Okay, so I have actually got this nice big piece of leather right through this flat slide. It's really gonna, first of all, it's really gonna stay put, and secondly, it looks really cool. So, and then I can maybe just add a little something. You know what I think I'm going to do? I thought about this morning. I'm going to use a copper clasp for this, and so maybe I just want to add a little bit of copper into the design. I think everyone knows at this point that if I use a metal clasp or any metal in my piece, I like to put some metal somewhere else in the design. I think it just adds a sense of unity to the design. So I've got some 8 millimeter jump rings here. I just closed them, and I'm going to just slide them onto this leather. Come on, baby. And maybe I'll put 2 on each side, see how that looks. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I think that looks kind of adds a little bit of copper in there, makes it a little bit more interesting. I didn't foof it up too much, so this is still a great design for either a man or a woman. And here we go. Okay, so I got those on each side, and then I'm just gonna add a little, because I've still got quite a bit of space right here at the, let me get over here, right here at the top of the clasp, there's still quite a bit of space there. So I've got a strand, I think it's either 1.5 or 2 millimeter of round leather. That's just going to go right in there on either side. Here we go. Get the other one through here. Okay. And it just kind of fills in that space a little bit better and just adds a little bit more interest to the design. And I'm okay with the fact that these are kind of sticking out a little bit. The jump rings are pushing the round leather out a little bit. Okay, so now you're probably wondering, how the heck am I going to glue this 5 millimeter round braid into a regular 10 millimeter flat clasp? Well, first of all, I want to point out that the magnetic clasps that had the little rivets on top of them, the opening is just a little bit wider than a lot of the other clasps. Something to keep in mind if you're working with a flat leather that's maybe a little bit thicker than some of the other ones. So I started with this, and then what I'll do is I am just going to take the end of the leather and I'm going to smush it. I'm going to just smush it down, okay? And the braid just comes apart a little bit, so I'm going to trim it up. Here we go. And then, of course, I've got my 2 strands of round leather here. Got those all centered up, so there we go. And if we look at this from the sides, a little hard to see, definitely hard to see, but I think it's gonna go in without too much trouble. Okay, so I'll get my glue. Okay, and because this is a multi-strand piece, I would probably, that's why I would probably use the gel glue. Okay, I squeeze that a little bit hard. The other issue is I am in Colorado, and the things just like potato chip bags blow up, glue blows up. Boy, what a mess that was. Okay, that was a big mess. Hang on just a second. Okay, there we go. Okay, well, okay, that was about the worst glue demo I think I've ever done. And I'm going to stop right here before my fingers glue together. But this is definitely going to go in here. I would definitely need to cut off the piece that I kind of saturated with glue. Cut off these ends and do that again. Let's try that one more time. Okay, so here's my leather. I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and smush it. Just the braid comes apart a little bit. That still looks pretty good. Okay, and then I'm going to carefully put some glue on the ends of the leather. Okay, that looks a lot more promising. And then I will just slide these pieces into the clasp. Come on, baby. There we go. Just about there. Okay, so if I get most of them in, then I go back, and there go the fingers again, and kind of just push the other pieces in. I'm going to take my pliers and just kind of nudge that up a little bit. So it's amazing, really, how much you can put into a flat leather clasp, especially this one with the rivets on it. I've just got one little piece that is a stray, and again I can use my chain nose pliers and just kind of stuff that in there. Come on, baby. There. Okay. Alright, so that's how you would finish that piece. There you go. And here is a finished bracelet with a slightly different slide on it. Really nice bracelet for, either a man or a woman. Okay, so now we're going to get into the fun. We're going to do a flat leather braid. So the deal with, again, with these slides that have the bigger, wider openings is that we can put things through them that we typically wouldn't. So, and if we do like a flat braid, it's definitely going to be thicker than a piece of flat leather. So let's go ahead and just look at how to do a flat braid using the round leather. This piece in particular, I used 2 strands of dark leather, 1 strand of natural leather, and then I used 2 strands together. So we don't have to just use a single strand at a time. But I am going to start by just showing you what this braid looks like. So, and in this particular case, I thought it might be a little safer to just put the all the leather through the slide to begin with. So, and quite frankly, here we go. I could glue this bracelet in right now and it would look like a pretty nice bracelet just like this, just with the flat slide on it. And the slide just does a beautiful job holding those strands together. In this particular case, I might use probably a 4mm round clasp. Okay, but let me just sort of show you what a basic braid looks like. So, and I'm just going to start with these 4 strands. And in fact, I'm just going to take all these out of here for right now. Okay, so I've got 4 strands. And this is a case, and I can't do it here, but we should be okay. This is a case where I'd really want to tape them down, tie them down, clamp them down, do something. So, but I'm going to do it without doing that. But I've got my 4 strands, and this is just such a basic braid. All you do is take, here's my 4 strands. In fact, I think I'm going to tie an overhand knot here. Here we go. Okay, just hold it together to start with. Okay, there we go. Okay, okay, I got my 4 strands. Okay, 2 light ones, 2 dark ones. Doesn't really matter how I start. Okay, so I'm going to start by taking the strand on one side, and I will bring it over 2 strands right in the middle. Okay, and then I take my next strand and bring it over one. You know what, I usually like to do this the other way around. I'm going to bring 1 strand over 2 on this side, and then over 1. Okay, next strand to the side here, over 2 strands, and I'm looking to see if you can see what I'm doing here. Over 2 strands, and then the one on the other side goes over 1. Okay, over 2, over 1, and then as I get going here, I can kind of snug it up a little bit. Over the 2, over 1, and I just keep working that, and I can tighten that up as much as I want. So there's a basic flat braid. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and do something a little different here, because I think this just makes it way more interesting. And I'm going to take all my strands and run them through this slide. Now this slide has a, let's see if I can set it up so you can see this. This slide is 5mm wide, and almost 5mm deep. You know, it's a pretty, so it's almost a square, you know. So, and I thought that it might be a little tricky to run the braid itself through the slide. So I'm going to go ahead and just run all the individual strands through the slide right off the bat, and then I can just braid on both sides. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so I am going to braid. I'm going to braid the 2 dark ones together. I'm going to braid the 2 light ones together, and then I'm going to braid these sort of medium ones as separate strands. And again, it doesn't matter how I set these up to start with. So I've got, let's see if I can get these out of the way. There. Okay, I've got 2 darks, a medium, 2 lights, and a medium. So, okay, so I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go over, and again, I'm treating those 2 light strands and these 2 dark strands as one strand. So I go over 2, and then bring this guy over and just go over the 1. Okay, over 2. So I'm taking the 2 light strands together, and I'm bringing them over. I'm bringing them over. Hold on just a second. I just got myself confused here. Okay, hang on. I'm going to go back for a second. I looked up to look at the comments, and then I lost track of where I was. Okay, over 2, and then just over 1. Okay, the 2 light ones go over 2. Okay, and then this one goes over 1. Okay, and I'm just going to, so over 2, I'm going over the 2 dark ones and a medium one, over 2, over 1. Now, in just a second here, I'm going to show you one other thing to keep in mind. Okay, I've got the 2 dark ones over 2, and then bring this one over 1. Now I need to go ahead and snug this up, or get this somehow a little bit tighter, and I can adjust where this slide is here. But there's my basic braid. This section right here is what that's going to look like. So once I sort of get it going, I can keep it snug. Okay, so I'll take this one over 2, and I'm going over the 2 lights and a medium, and then I bring the dark ones over 1. Now, if you notice, I am not, when I do the 2 strands, I am not letting them cross over. I'm keeping them kind of flat. Okay, so just like that, over 2, over 1. Now I've got this one, I'll just do this one really quick, over 2, over 1, and again, I am not letting those strands cross over. I'm keeping them nice and flat, just like a flat piece of ribbon. Okay, and one more time, I'm doing the same thing with the dark. I'm not letting them cross over 2, over 1. Okay, so then I can adjust this slide up so that it's sort of more, so it's sort of right where the braid starts, and I would just continue to work this piece, and then I would do the braid on the other side. So just a real different kind of look, the braid with the multi-strand sections. Okay, so and then this one, and we did a video a couple of months ago, mixed media bracelet, braided bracelet, and we finished it with coil knots and a loop, and then I used a little 8mm or 6mm big hole wood bead as a button, you know, so you can do that. And this is, since there's absolutely no metal in this piece, you know, it's kind of nice to have something that's just 100% metal free. This would be a great bracelet for a guy. And so there's that piece. And again, I used 1mm leather for the coil knot. So go back and take a look at that video, mixed media braided bracelet. It is on YouTube. Okay, so here's the next one. And this one, I'm actually going to braid with wire. Okay, and believe it or not, it really, this is going to be more of a bracelet for a woman. I've got some different leathers. I've got the slide, and this braid actually it fills up the slide. It fills up the slide, but it really just goes right over the bracelet. Okay, so wouldn't be able to use this with a regular wouldn't be able to use this braid with a regular flat slide, but the wood slides are big enough so that that works pretty well. So, and I've got all kinds of strands in this one, so I'm just going to get this one started. So I'm going to start by cutting probably a couple of feet of wire. Here's piece number 1 and piece number 2. Okay, there we go. Okay, and I'm going to glue all this stuff in. So the braid has, I've got wire on either side of the leather, and I think I've got hopefully 2 pieces of leather set. So here's my 2 wire on either side of that, and then I'm going to have 2 pieces of this greenish leather with a blue in between it. So I'm basically doing this braid with 4 sets of 3 strands of leather, but I am going to start by gluing them in because it's going to make it way easier. Joe mentioned that last week. Now with the wire, sometimes it helps if I get my round nose pliers, okay, and I kind of just loop it over a little bit. It just gives the glue something to kind of hang on to a little bit, and then I can kind of just flatten that. So I just have a little, kind of a little curly thing right here at the beginning. Okay, so I'm going to get all these lined up the way I want them, and then I'm going to glue them in. I probably won't glue them all in at once. Okay, so I've got 2 pieces of this green leather, 2 pieces of this leather, okay, and then I've got these little brown ones with the wire on either side, and I'm just going to start maybe by gluing these 6 in, and then I'll go back and glue the other ones in. And this is something that, you know, it's not probably the first project you want to undertake, but it's pretty cool to be able to actually braid with wire. This is a 24 gauge wire. Okay, so let's get the glue out, which is now all over my mouse pad. Okay, and I'm just going to put the glue right in there. And I'm just going to sort of put all this stuff in here. Okay, come on. Okay, and I'm going to let that sit there for a second. The wire may pop out again, and it's no big deal. I can just put it back in again. And then I'm going to try to grab, you know, I'm going to let the wire not go in right now. Then I'm going to grab the other brown piece of leather and put it next to this one, and then on the other side I will add in, so you don't have to glue them all in at once, add in the other, there we are, blue. It's like working with spaghetti. Okay, here we go. Okay, there we go. Okay, okay, and 2 of them already popped out again. Okay, hang on just a sec. Okay. I guess I was debating whether I should glue these in before we started, but I also wanted you to see that, you know, it does take a little bit of work to do a multi-strand piece here. So I'm almost there. I just want to get this brown leather in between the blue ones to start. I just think it looks kind of nice like that to start with. Okay, so I've got the leather in. Okay, I've got the 2 greens with the blue in between them. Okay, that one wanted to come out again. Please stay in here. Please. Okay. Okay, it's just going to be a bad glue day. Okay. And let's see who's missing. Here we go. And you know what? I am going to actually, just for the sake of not having people literally watching glue dry while we do this, I'm going to go ahead and get this glued in, and then I'm going to set this aside and show you another project, and then we'll come back to this one. So got the leather in, almost in, and there we go. I'm going to just set this aside for right now. Okay, so the other project, and this is kind of an interesting thing here, the bracelet that I'm going to be working on is this. It's got all these tube beads, and they are literally, we've got loops on either end. We've strung them through 1.5 millimeter leather, and then I've done just a sort of a wire wrap on the end, sort of like a coil knot. But so here's that. Okay, so to do this, and I've got my 1.5 millimeter leather here, and I've got a slide that I'm going to use, and I'm going to go ahead and get a few of these tube beads. And I thought it'd be kind of fun for this piece to use 2 different colors of tubes. So maybe I could do, you know, a light one and then, you know, 3 dark ones. Okay. There we go. And then another light one, or do something like that. Just kind of will add a little bit of extra interest to the bracelet. So in order to make these loops, and I wanted to use a pretty thick leather. Now a regular eye pin will go through a 1 millimeter piece of leather, but not 1.5. So I need to take my head pins and make my own eye pins again. And I don't know if we remember, I really prefer using head pins if I need to make my own eye pins with a simple loop. These have a brass core, and whereas the wire that we use has a copper core. Copper is way softer than brass, so these will just hold up better. So, okay, so here we go. Now, and for this project, it is really important that all our loops are exactly the same size. So I'm going to start by making just one loop, and I'm going to kind of guesstimate what I need to go through the leather, okay, to start with. And I'm going to go ahead and roll this around until it looks like a P, put it back in my pliers and straighten it up. Okay, and let's see how that looks when it goes through the leather. I think that's pretty good. Might be just a little bit smaller. So this was sort of my test case. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just make one that's a tiny bit smaller. Okay, roll it around, and then I just use the edge of the pliers to straighten it up. Still a little bit open. I want to make sure these are closed. All right, and that's a tighter fit, but I think it's going to be a better choice for this. So this is going to be the size loops I'm going to make. So I've got my loop here, okay, and then what I will do is run it into my round nose pliers, and I will take a Sharpie, and I'm going to mark the pliers. So I know my loop, and I can kind of mark it. Actually, it might be even easier to mark it on this one because I can get it sort of right in the middle. Okay, there we go. So now I know all my loops are going to be exactly the same size. And don't worry about it. It wears out. It wears off over time. Okay, so let's go ahead and make a loop. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put the wire right at my mark. Okay, make my loop. Okay, run a tube bead through it. And now this does take a little bit of practice to figure out exactly how much you need to cut off here. 3/8 of an inch is pretty good. If you sort of again figure out exactly what you need, you can actually measure these, but there we go. And this time I put the wire right there. I'm going to roll it around and straighten it up. and I've got a link here. Okay. Okay. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to just make a whole bunch of these, and again, then I can just string them on this wire. It's really kind of nice because the tubes just kind of almost fit right in this slot, which again, you know, is pretty deep. So that's that project. And again, you can also just glue it into a magnetic clasp. Sometimes what I'll do is, if I was going to glue this into a clasp, I would cut it off a little bit longer than that last bead, but I would actually want to put a little bit of glue right on the edge of the clasp and sort of glue that last tube bead almost to the clasp. Okay, let's go back and check this guy and see if we can work with this. Okay. And I've got, this is just, guys, I don't know why this is not working for me today. I'm going to go ahead and do my best to, you know what, I think we just need to let this project go today. I just don't quite think it's gonna work. I think what I'll do next week is pre-glue all of this in and then show you the braid with the wire. There's just a little bit of an extra trick to it, and it just looks so interesting to have that little metallic flash in there. I think it's worth pursuing. So with that in mind, I think we're going to call it for today. And all kinds of things you can do with these braids. Here's another flat braid with just leather. The slides, I mean, here's a piece of the 3mm, and by the way, these slides work beautifully with a 3mm leather. I said I was going to work with colors I don't usually work with. Got this green here, which I probably never would have picked, but it looks really great with the jackwood and then a piece of natural brown leather. And this is just a, you know, again, a great guy's bracelet. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for your patience with my glue problems, and just want to remind everyone that we are doing a giveaway every Friday. So just go on to Facebook, comment, blog, do something, and you will be in the offing to get some finished jewelry, some pretty nice pieces. Jo has done some beautiful designs lately. I'd love to see some of hers in the giveaway. So again, thank you so much for your time. And next week we're going to do one more segment really focusing on men's jewelry. And then we will got some more really cool things logged in line for next session, and I will again demo that flat braid next week or next time we do a Facebook Live. Thank you. Goodbye.